Hi, and welcome to SheepConnect SA 10-minute talks. Today we're in Jamestown for the AWI Shearing and Sheep Handling Demonstration and Innovation Day. We've been joined by a range of people to give us a 10-minute talk. It's my pleasure to introduce Ben White from the Kondinin Group.
G'day, I'm Ben White. I'm a research engineer with the Kondinin Group, and today I wanted to talk about yard design and things to consider if you are going to invest in yard infrastructure on farm. And the first thing is typically what existing infrastructure is already there. Not many people put a set of yards on a greenfield site. If you do, then there's plenty of off-the-shelf options that are available. Those that have that luxury can kind of tailor the yards to exactly what they need. But for many of us, we're trying to adapt a set of yards to either an existing shed that's already there or potentially trying to integrate yards that might already be on site. Now, there's a couple of considerations if we are adapting to yards that are on site, and that is that sometimes we can compromise our design by trying to integrate older infrastructure. It might actually be better to tear that infrastructure down and start again. Yes, sometimes that's a little bit of a daunting thought to pull out yards that might have been in existence for some time, but if they're going to I guess compromise our new design and a new investment in yards, then that's probably worth thinking about, taking those out, starting from scratch. Equally, if we've got shearing sheds or something close by, we normally try and integrate yards into that and make sure that the flow of animals up into the shed works both for our yards and their function, but also for the feed into the shed. An investment in yards should take into account potentially a number of stages. If you can't afford to invest that capital all up front, it might be worth thinking about doing things in a number of set stages in terms of maybe just the yards to start with. You might think about going undercover at a later date. Some of those costs can be quite high. It's worth getting them priced at the start because ultimately adding all the things up front will probably be the cheapest option, but not necessarily the most affordable. Now, when it comes to building yards, there's a plethora of materials to select from. We can use pre-fabricated panels, we can build on site, we can get material that's rolled on site, for example K-rail and similar or W-rail that's actually rolled on site. And what we can do is integrate that into our yards, and our yard design can be, designed around some of the materials we've got available. If you are buying things like built panels, it's worth just checking the quality of those, because we have seen that some of that quality can vary considerably between different manufacturers. And make sure that the finish again is really well done, and make sure that the finish is durable, that weld quality is good, for example, because as I say, some of those things can vary between different manufacturers. Now, the race is the heart of most yards, and there's a stack of designs, whether they're single races, double races, whether the race has got a midway gate, it might have a toe recess in underneath it that reduces the backload on the operator when they're drenching, for example. So the race design is imperative. Think about the end gate. In a lot of cases, vertical bars on that end gate as opposed to horizontal bars will assist sheep flow into the yards and certainly into the race. Being able to release sheep out of the race as well is something we need to be able to do easily. Think about being able to do that remotely. A couple of ideas and options that I've seen on farm include gate openers from the back of the race, so that a walk to the front isn't actually required. Now, latches and catches vary in design. You can buy a stack of them off the shelf. You can make them yourself. Think about how easy they are to use. In a lot of cases, top-mounted latches prevent a lot of bending over through the day, lower the operational load on the operator in the yards. I don't think you can have too many personal access gates in a yard. Being able to walk through the yards as opposed to climbing over rails all day certainly does lower the impact on the operator. As well as PA gates, think about dogs that might be working in the yards. Bottom-mounted dog gates are also something worth thinking about. Again, you can buy these off the shelf. Now, it's also worth thinking about concreting those areas of high traffic, just to make sure that we don't end up with areas in the yards that ultimately erode out and fill up with water and mud and make the yards less pleasant to work in. Now, those high traffic areas, obviously the race, the forcing pens, etc., that's worth doing. Outer yards typically aren't concreted, but there are some options if people are so inclined. And one of those is to integrate or dig in one standard 10 kilogram bag of concrete, or cement, sorry, into gravel of an area of about 3 square metres. By digging that cement in, wetting it down and compacting it, you can provide yourself with an area that's certainly much better wearing and also easier to clean. Installation is probably one of the most important aspects of any yard build. So if you're having a contractor come in, make sure you've seen their work from previous jobs they've done. Go and inspect some of that, have a look at the finish, make sure that it's done to the standard that you'd expect. And equally, if you're doing it yourself, you might want to think about getting a surveyor to mark some of those positions out. So just at least you get the positioning of critical components in the yards in exactly the right spot. Now, site orientation and topography will definitely come into it, and in addition to integrating into past infrastructure or past built infrastructure, that topography can really influence the way the yards may sit on the slope. Equally, prevailing weather conditions can come into account as well. So think about all of those things in the context of the new investment you're about to make in yards, and make sure that you do spend your money well. In a lot of cases, spending it properly up front can be the cheapest option, and that requires good planning and good design before you start picking up a shovel to put the first posts in.
Thanks, Ben, for your 10-minute talk today. SheepConnect is funded by Australian Wool Innovation, the South Australian Sheep Industry Fund and the Department of Primary Industries and Regions. If you want to know more about SheepConnect, you can go to our website, sheepconnectsa.com.au, or you can follow us on Twitter.